listening to Lighthearted, the official podcast of the United States Lighthouse Society. My name is Jeremy D'Entremont. Welcome. My co-host today is Cindy Johnson, award-winning volunteer and chapter leadership committee member of Friends of Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouses. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Jeremy.
We're recording this on April 16th, although people will be hearing it on April 25th. That's the day it'll be released, April 25th. It's an absolutely miserable day here on the New Hampshire seacoast. It's been raining all day. It's very windy. Matter of fact, I think I'm hearing the wind right now. I don't know if people will be able to hear that through the microphone. But anyway, how is it in Newmarket today, Cindy?
Actually, I have a little bit of snow on my car right now here in Newmarket, and I'm just a little bit inland from where you are, Jeremy, in Portsmouth. But we actually did get a little snow here in mid-April.
That's not right at all. That should be well over with by now. But anyway, we had some spring. We were teased, and now we're back into winter.
That's right.
Yeah. So as I said, this episode will be released on April 25th, and it's episode 115 of Lighthearted. This is part one of two episodes that will take us to Sweden to talk about Pater Noster Lighthouse, which Swedish people know as the King of Lighthouses. We'll be talking with an award-winning hotel designer who's a partner in the small hotel at the light station. This is a first for this podcast. We've done a number of shows about locations in the British Isles. We did one with an author in Italy, but we've never visited Sweden before, or anywhere in Scandinavia for that matter. We'll tell you more about it in a few minutes. But first, let's talk for a minute about this date in history.
On April 25th, 1893, Old Orchard Shoal Lighthouse in Lower New York Bay was first lighted. The spark plug type lighthouse was automated in 1955 and sold at government auction in 2008. 4 years later, in October 2012, it was wiped out by Hurricane Sandy. The foundation can be seen where the lighthouse once stood.
On April 25th, 1908, the American broadcast journalist and war correspondent Edward R. Murrow was born near Greensboro, North Carolina. He once said, quote, "Anyone who isn't confused really doesn't understand the situation," unquote.
Wait, what?
Well, I'm confused by that quote, so I can't explain it to you. As I mentioned, our subject today is the Pater Noster Lighthouse in Sweden. Our interview is with Erik Nissen Johansen, who is one of the managers of the hotel at the light station. First, let's tell everyone about Pater Noster Lighthouse.
Paternoster is a small archipelago off the west coast of Sweden. The island group's name, which means the Lord's Prayer, is said to come from the tradition that mariners would recite the Lord's Prayer as they negotiated their way around the dangerous reefs in the vicinity.
The 105-foot-tall cast-iron lighthouse on one of the islands was constructed in 1868 during a period of intensive lighthouse building in Sweden. It was designed by the Swedish engineer Niels Gustav von Heidenstam. I don't know about...
Good job.
Thank you. I'm not sure about pronunciation there.
Sounded good to me.
It was one of 11 lighthouses that he designed, and 10 of them still stand.
From the time it began service until its automation in 1964, Paternoster had a first-order Fresnel lens. That large lens was replaced at that time by a smaller fourth-order lens. Then, in 1977, the lighthouse was deactivated after a modern light tower was erected offshore. The iron tower rusted and fell into disrepair in the years that followed.
A complete restoration of the lighthouse began in 2002. The tower was transported to shore, and with many local companies and individuals pitching in, the work was completed and the tower was shipped back to the island in 2007. Since last year, Pater Noster Lighthouse has been operated as a small hotel. The facilities include rooms with a sea view, a restaurant, and 3 boathouses for dinner and conferences.
The hotel on Paternoster was awarded the 40th Annual Gold Key Award for Excellence in Hospitality Design. Earlier this year, the nearby film festival in Gothenburg awarded a week-long stay at the Lighthouse Hotel to Lisa Enroth, a nurse. You'll hear references to the film festival and contest in the interview you're about to hear.
Erik Nissen Johansen is originally from Norway. He's the founder and creative director of Stylt Trampoli, a multi-award-winning hospitality design company. For more than 25 years, Stylt has created unique hotel and restaurant experiences for clients all over the world. Erik is now a partner in the Pater Noster Hotel. I spoke with Erik last month. Let's listen to that conversation now. So I'm speaking today with Erik Nissen Johansen of Stylt. Am I pronouncing that right, Erik? Stylt?
Yes, Stylt,
Okay.
yes.
A hospitality design company, and Erik is also a partner in the Pater Noster Lighthouse Hotel, which is what we'll mainly be discussing today. Erik is in Sweden. I'm here in New Hampshire. We're speaking through the magic of Zoom. Thank you so much for joining me today, Erik. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Big pleasure, and a very warm topic for for me to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's really amazing what's been done there. So before we talk about the Lighthouse Hotel, I'd just like to talk a little bit about your background. You've been in the business of hospitality design for a long time, for quite a while. I saw you originally from Norway.
Yes.
And you studied in Italy.
Yes.
I have that right. Yeah.
Pan-European.
You're what do you call that? Pan-European or something?
Exactly.
Something like that. Yeah. And I heard you say in another podcast I listened to that you're a fisherman trapped in a hotel designer's body.
I think, I mean, exactly that. My great hobby is, getting out on the water, out to nature, and I really like fishing. That's also one of the reasons why I chose to become a partner in this project, because me and my wife have a summer house not far from there on another island, and when it's really good weather, I take the boat all the way out to that lighthouse because the fishing is really good around it. It's further out, so it's better fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a nature person. Maybe less everybody from Norway, but with that Viking blood, I really enjoy being on the sea on the boat, and I also travel around with my friends on vacation to different parts of the world to go fishing. So,
well, it sounds like the Lighthouse project is perfect for you. And I read that you're also an artist. What sort of art do you do?
I actually do collect items, and I'm really fascinating about the putting together, two different objects and putting them together. It will create a third meaning somehow. And if you add another thing and a fourth object, then you can start to tell different stories, which I think is the same thing we do with interior design. It's if you change the furniture in a room, you can say something else. I think my art is to collect things that I find, maybe a lot around beaches and related to nature and the ocean, but seeing beauty in things that other people threw away.
On the art world, I guess those are referred to as found objects, right? That you
exactly found objects and material collages or assemblages.
So I want to talk briefly about the history of the Paternoster Lighthouse. I was reading that the island before the lighthouse was there was actually considered uninhabitable, but keepers and families lived there for more than 100 years. Is there anything about the history of the lighthouse itself, or maybe the people who live there that you find especially interesting?
Yeah, a lot of it actually, and maybe you noticed that we don't want to call our product a hotel. We call it a home on the horizon.
Right.
And the reason for that is two reasons. One, that I think this is so small and particular as a hotel and very special location, so it gains from not kind of being in the competitive set of other hotel experiences. But the main reason, I think, is that there was something we read when we read about the history of the island and the discussion that went on 50 years before they built it, because everybody were agreeing that it would be a perfect location to put the lighthouse out there, because it would give the sailors more accuracy when they pass those dangerous reefs. But in the same sentence, they said it's impossible to live there. It's too small, too far out. So in the winters, you wouldn't be able to go back into land and stuff. And then finally they did it and built it, and 3 families moved out because it was a kerosene-driven flame, and it needed to be maintained 24/7. So they needed to be 3 people working on it. And they proved everybody wrong. So they had a really good life there from the beginning. Even the first lighthouse master, he was growing tomatoes up in the lantern because of the heat and the light there, And there was kind of a tradition of the lighthouse families to invite the captain on waiting ships. Ships were waiting for the daylight, anchoring close to the lighthouse. And they invited them for dinner, the captains, and they served them fresh tomatoes all year round. So, so they actually, and they were hunting seals and catching lobsters and fishing and seabirds and seaweeds. And they had a lot of children out there also, and they had a school teacher. So it was, full of life. So that's the product we want to give to the world, that showing people how it is to live on the terms and condition of this small, sparse island, and showing them that it's really good. You can only 50 meters from the building, you can catch your dinner, your lobster. And I think that's the new luxury in a way, for all these people living in big cities. Next, when you exit the building, it's tarmac and, and they are only used to buying your lobster in fancy shops, So that's why we decided to open up the home of the Lighthouse Master and offering it to our guests.
Can you remind me how far offshore it is?
It's an archipelago, so it's the outmost island. But if you want to take the boat back, it's 6 or 7 nautical miles to where you can park your car. Then you have taken your car over several bridges, so you can still see land from one angle, but the 3 other angles you will only see the horizon.
It reminds me a lot of a lighthouse not far from where I live here, off the southern Maine coast here, called Boone Island, Boon.
Yeah.
Some of our listeners will be familiar with that. Maybe you've heard about it. Very similar. It's about 8 miles offshore, and it's a little pile of rocks with a tall lighthouse on it. And just like
you make me want to go there.
Maybe you should start a hotel or something similar there. But anyway, it's same as Paternoster. Families live there, and it amazes me in both cases that families, along with the lighthouse keepers, that families and children actually lived in these places. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was a law saying that you were allowed to bring your families, and people had more kids per family back then, and there was also a law if there were more than 2 children that were in school age, the government needed to provide a teacher, to do so. But I think, and I read somewhere there were always more than 2 children there, so they constantly had a school teacher. A lot of stories about one time the school teacher were a little too beautiful, so the wives on the island forced her to leave and change her. But I also got in contact because of this project. We have been running it now for 9 months, I think. I got in contact with some people that are old now, but they were kids of Lighthouse Master back then, and they have so fun memories and so great memories. I mean, even got access to take pictures of the pictures in their albums. We have a beautiful picture when they're putting up the Christmas tree in between the buildings and strapping it up with wires so the wind shouldn't take it. And also it's quite a big number of people that had like a family connection to it. So we also see that we have from the beginning, we had a lot of, let's say, fans among the people that living in the vicinity back on the mainland.
Yeah,
that really are sharing. I think this is nice that it's opening up again.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Has there been any thought of putting a book together about the island?
We are working on it actually now. And when the big renovation was, when it was put back in 2008, the Museum of Bohuslän, which is the municipality of the area, they made a book with different, parts of the history. And we are working on a book now. We are having this summer, the publisher will come out, and we want to do a book about a nice, comfortable book about the history, about the food, the sea, life in the sea, recipes, a little bit of our universe.
Yeah, that sounds great. I just had a hunch there might be a book in the works, and I'm glad to hear it. It's great. So you just mentioned some restoration work, I believe in 2008 you were talking about. In 2002, I was reading about that when the lighthouse was actually floated to shore. Yes. And restored, and I've seen pictures of the lighthouse being put back in place by a giant crane.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. We haven't had anything like that with a similar lighthouse over here. Do you have any other thoughts or insight about that?
Right. I'll give you the background story because I think it's kind of cute. Since this is a cast iron lighthouse, it was starting to deteriorate and rust. The governmental branch that were in charge of it, they had one solution to lose it and tear it into the ocean. So it should, because 1977, there was a mechanical lighthouse that they built from our underwater rock that's like even better positioned.
Mhm.
And that's taken over the lighthouse purpose, the navigational purpose. It's a light in our lighthouse just for nostalgia,
Sure.
The big local Gothenburg newspaper, they started like a protest list. You don't realize how much you love it before you threaten to take it away. So it was a big, they collected a lot of money. I think they got 4 million crowns, which is in dollar, it's like $400,000 or $500,000. And then they brought it back into a shop that were supposed to fix it. And then they realized how bad shape it was. And then they said, we need 4 times the money or something. And that's why it was delayed.
Took 6 years. Huh.
And people missed it because it's like a part of the horizon from land, when you see that it's like a safe haven somehow. But then they started to collect more money, and some companies were helping out, and they managed to get it back. And that's also the reason that gave also the owners, the Swedish government, the owners of the island and the buildings, to renovate also the buildings, because they were in really bad shape. They are very well done, because with thick timber and good details to withstand storms and stuff. But they needed kind of a big renovation, but it put the buildings in the shape that they are today. But that's the story about. So it's like in the Western Sweden, at least, it's famous for that story. That is the lighthouse that was saved. And I think also the Gothenburg Post, the newspaper, they started to have like next to the logo on the top, they are presenting a new lighthouse every week, and it kind of raised the awareness of the whole lighthouse thing, and we're really happy for that.
And you and I were chatting a little bit before we started the interview here about how attractive the lighthouse is. We have some similar skeletal type lighthouses here in this country, but yours is earlier than ours. Ours usually mostly came later in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And I really think it's a handsome tower of that type, Paternoster, and the red paint, I think, also makes it striking, as opposed to ours that are either white or in some cases brown, which is kind of drab. But Paternoster is really attractive.
It is, and it's designed by Carl Gustav Heidenstam, a Swedish engineer he was like their chief engineer and the architect. And the reason why they built it, and there used to be 11 similar lighthouses made by the same technique, but every lighthouse before the Paternoster one, before it was built or raised in 1868. But before that, everyone else was made by stone, and preferably quarried on the actual island, but that took about 2 years to build the lighthouse of stone. But this was assembled in a week, because it was like a kit coming from the shop in the city, made by cast iron, and they kind of screwed it together, and it's amazing details on it. I noticed the other day that there are 8 points from the ceiling of the lantern that are leading the water, to the right place, and you can hardly see them. But it's lion heads that are spitting out the water. So it's and I have also
drain spouts.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen the drawings. The drawings are really beautiful. It was, I think, probably the most prestigious job you could have as an architect or as an engineer in the country, because it was considered, the lighthouses were very, very important, and the lighthouse master was higher than a captain on a big ship, so.
Those lion drain spouts you just described, we have a lighthouse in Maine called West Quoddy Head that has gargoyle drain spouts.
I guess you could, design it in a simpler way and make it much less costlier. But it's also the Paternoster, among lighthouse enthusiasts in Sweden, they call it the King of Lighthouses. It's considered, also because of the location, it's kind of spectacular. It's very appreciated, I think. And especially also when you walk up on the inside, you have cast ornaments in the staircases, apparently for no other reason than making it beautiful.
How many stairs do you know?
139.
139. That's a good number of stairs. I'll give you some.
It is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are. I've been up there many times. We've been serving champagne and stuff for our guests, and then
Wow.
And we also do since exactly, and we do yoga there. We do also some dinner for because there is a lamp in there, but the lamp is electrical and it's very small, so it's kind of a big room.
Yeah,
the lantern today. So, and with the 360 view, of course. So sunsets are we in the summer we abrupt the dinners, and we tell them we have to go up to watch the sunset now. Everybody runs up, and then they come down and continue with the dessert.
Yeah. You're making me want to go there so much. I would love to go. So let's talk about that now. Should I refer to it as the Pater Noster Lighthouse Hotel, or how should I refer to it?
You can say that. The proper one would be Paternoster home on the horizon. And the name of the island is Hamneskär.
Right. So Paternoster is actually the archipelago, right?
Exactly. And apparently there are, I know there are in South Africa another kind of chain of reefs called Paternoster, and a couple of other places in the world. So this is also, I guess it comes from the Ice Age. It's a line of reefs coming out, almost like the Catholic, the pearl chain that the Catholic priests are using, or which is also called the Paternoster, which is Latin for our Father. It's also the start of the famous prayer in Latin. So there are two theories of why they were given the names. One is that the reefs were so dangerous, so you needed to pray Father's prayers when you were approaching. And the other one is that because it's actually, I've found the name Paternoster Reefs on maps dated back to the 1400s. The other, reason for the name it could be the string of pearls, in a way that it has been a monastery on the larger island further back.
Oh.
Could be because of that. I think the common Swede would refer it to the, you have to do your prayers before you approach the reefs because of the dangers.
Yeah.
And there is actually historically the last 1,000 years is more than 700 shipwrecks around that went down around there.
Around the archipelago?
The last one was 1969, a Spanish freight vessel.
Interesting. Wow. So how did the idea for the hotel on the island come about?
We are 6 people in the operation company, and they were putting out the lease on the market. The owners, the government, it's the same branch that take care of the royal castles and the historical buildings, basically. And it was a lot of people that applied. It was me and my wife that has a history of designing hotels, marketing hotels, and then we had a young couple that runs a rib boat freight company. So they bring tourists back and forth and stuff like that. And we had people with the restaurant backgrounds that had their background in sommelier and wines and things like that. And Ulle, the main owner, who's like a businessman in town that are kind of very well connected and also a very keen sailor. So he's been behind the sailing competitions on Marstrand, which is the nearby island, So I guess they thought we had the best chance to make it successful. We won the lease and started just in the beginning of last summer. And everybody's in it for a passion, as I said before. My best time is when I can take my boat out there and go fishing. So, and everybody else had like this passionate connection. I guess it's an island that's very easy to fall in love with. I think it's more passion than business behind, that it have to be. I mean, a 9-room hotel, it's like, it could never be, of course, a huge business.
I don't know anything else that's quite like it anywhere. There are plenty of lighthouse properties where you can stay overnight, but they're usually on the mainland or larger islands. They're usually not so remote. There might be something that I'm not aware of that I can't think of right now, but I don't know of any similar situation like this. We
knew from a business perspective that we need to charge approximately 5-star prices to make a business, because it's like a invisible tax on everything, all the sheets. We have a water maker on the island, so we don't have capacity to do the laundry for the sheets. So they need to be brought back with boat and back and forth with boat, and all the bottles of wine, everything, back and forth.
Yeah.
But we also knew that we could never do traditional luxury, but we thought also that the closeness to nature and back to basics that's part of the new luxury that people want to pay a premium for. So
makes sense to me. I understand it just opened not that long ago, this past September. We're talking in mid-March, so around 6 months ago. How have things gone so far with that, and how has the pandemic affected the operation?
As you mentioned before, I've been working in hotel design globally for 30 years. Our company is actually in end of this month, it's turning 30. I have never seen anything like this, PR-wise. I think we passed more than 4,000 articles globally, which is incredible. The contact person on the company that provides the measurement software that we are tracking articles, she said that we were on par with the Volvo, Volvo Cars, which is another proud company in Gothenburg. But obviously that feels a little strange when we get this tremendous amount of press. It is the same year that nobody is allowed to travel. This image of this small island in the large ocean with a little tiny lighthouse on it's somehow emotionally a solution to the virus somehow. This is okay. At least we could go there somehow. We had a fairly strong summer. The virus went down a little bit, and also a lot of Swedes obviously weren't able to travel abroad. So this domestic market was fairly good in the summer. And the autumn was, we had also some business, and then the virus hit again here, and then it was like, so we had a lot of Christmas dinners that's very traditional here with seafood that we did, but we had to cancel all of them because nobody dared to go there because of contamination of the whole thing. But now we are getting bookings for the summer, and people seems more optimistic.
Is it open all year?
It is, but in the winter, if you like a couple that want to book one room, then we will kind of guide you to the right weekend to do it, because we need to our 9 rooms, we need to open like 6 or 7 of them, or rent out 6 or 7 to be able to make sense economically to open the island. So it's obviously not a drop-in location anyway. We weren't 100% sure about the water system and the systems on the island. We get land electric power from land, but sometimes there were, they had to add some heat elements on the water pipes and stuff like that, because we had snow. It's obviously close to the sea, so the snow doesn't lay for such a long time. But we had like a 2 weeks period with sub-zero freezing degrees all the time. So. But we managed to get through those, and the previous operation that were more like a youth hostel product, they were never opened in the winter, so there was no like track record of having the operation open in the winter. But we also noticed that a lot of people are very attracted to bad weather, so storm watching, and people that if they really want to go there when it's white and snowy, and if there's a big storm coming, we have always a couple of people that want, can I go there? During the storm.
Yeah.
So that's our goal, at least, to have open all year round, but on basis of bookings, of course.
Mm-hmm. Have you been out there in any storms or anything like that?
Yeah, not maybe storm, but very heavy wind, and
big waves.
We have a little harbor there, sheltered harbor. You can see it in some wind direction is really bad. So we are investigating to put a crane so we can lift our boats up, because it's almost like putting the boat in a boiling kettle when the wind direction is bad. And and we noticed on old photos, everything always before, in the good old days, they were always lifting the boats up.
How do people get there? How do the guests get there?
You drive from Gothenburg to the island of Marstrand, and where you can park a car, and then we normally pick them up with a rib boat, or they would arrange it themselves and call. In the summer, people come with their own boat, and then we take guests with helicopters. Then you can go from Gothenburg, or you could actually come from the airport and fly directly out to us. So, which make it 2.5 hours from London. And then we will be on the island. But I think if you fill the helicopter and if you fill the rib boat, the cost per person would be the double with the helicopter. Yeah. But they can actually get out in harder wind than the boats.
Wow.
It gets scary. It's not dangerous, but if you're not used to it, it gets scary because it's bumpy. But
sure.
We had a lot of, not a lot, but a few guests coming with helicopter, and it's also a beautiful ride. It's a beautiful archipelago around there. So
there's not exactly a helipad on the island, right? Is it hard to land there?
No, they everybody, all the helicopter pilots are picking the same spot. So so it's they go down and they kind of cruise around the island, and they see that it's a natural spot just inside of the long pier that we have.
I know the guest rooms are in the keeper's, what used to be the keeper's or master's house. Yeah. Are there other buildings there that are incorporated into the hotel in some way?
Yes, all of the buildings actually. Somehow we have the gunpowder house. It's a little bit far away from the other buildings, because that's before they had the blowhorn to the foghorn. I mean, yeah. Before that, they used to shoot with cannons, loose shots with cannons to warn about the fog. So they had to store the gunpowder somewhere. So that's called the gunpowder building. And then we had the foghorn building, which are beautiful, with a little tower with the old foghorn still there. And that's like a conference room now, with so we can have or a separate dinner. Even in the summer, we use it for the staff in the cafe, our cafe, to sleep. And then we have we call it the boathouse, but it's the second largest building on the island, and it's very close to the main building. So it's where we do big dinners. And then we have the old food storage with thick walls, before they had freezers and coolers and stuff. And that's where we have our wine cellars, because it's a good stable temperature, even if it's hot in the summer or cold in the winter. And then we have an additional building that used to be the kerosene building, where they kept the kerosene next to the fuel for the light. There we're going to build our sauna. It's not done yet, but we're going to do it. And there we're going to make a little pathway down to the ocean, so we can jump in the ocean and go back into the sauna, so we can kind of expand the swimming season a little bit.
Yeah. Can you describe the accommodations a little bit?
Yes. I think I have to begin with the design then, because as I said, we wanted to create a feeling that we're opening up the home of the lighthouse staff or the lighthouse families. What we did is a good portion, I think 60% of the furniture is actually antique, sourced in the vicinity, in the municipality, and different shops. And then we also, mixed that up with modern. We don't want it to be a museum. We wanted it to be like as you live there today. So then we had modern sofas and nicer things, and we even custom made a wallpaper in the living room, which is based on the drawings of the lighthouse. So you can see the cast iron details there, plus the seaweed that grows around the island. And then the rooms are there. It is the former living quarters, so everybody of course have beautiful views, and we did a collaboration with Dux Beds, which is a very high-end brand of beds, and they provided us with their best quality beds. And we are actually renovating. We're putting new wallpapers and painting and adding some more. So in mid-April we will open fully for the season with all the rooms renovated. We have done a couple of them now, and it's like an ongoing process. But we don't want to, as I said before, we don't want to do traditional luxury. We want to do like a very homey feeling, and a lot of old sailing charts or marine charts, and mixed with modern art. We bought an expensive piece of art from a great American artist, Christy Lee Rogers. She's a photographer, and she's taking pictures of people underwater. She's dressing them up. It almost looks like a Renaissance painting. She's dressing them up with old, nice clothes, like dresses with special fabrics that she has made that should float beautifully in water. Then she directs them, and they hops in. And this piece we have in the dining hall. And this is all, a little bit our respectful homage to all the people that passed away, drowned during the 1,000 last years, But it's a beautiful piece, and it's really nice to mix modern art with these old black and white photos from the childhood of the people that actually lived there for real. So it's a very cozy atmosphere. Lots of books, and lots of the history mixed with things that proves that it's alive now.
Pictures I've seen look really beautiful. Can you describe the food a little bit? What kind of food do people get there?
Yes, definitely. We really try to, as I said before, our best moments are when we go fishing or go pulling up the lobster pots with our guests. It's great fishing out there. So we have from our pier a few crab pots always, and they will give you like 25 crabs each, big crabs, every day. And that's really joy for the guests to, go there before dinner and pull them up, and the kids love it. And then we boil them outside, and we make special sauces, and then we do a lot of fishing with our guests. We get a lot of mackerel, codfish, and since it's so fresh, we usually do sashimi on them and things like that. Then it's like seafood. We have a kitchen there, but pre-boiled seafood from the local fishermen. People love it, and it's like makes sense to eat it out there, and we can really get hold of it really fresh. So that we eat a lot. Then we have collaboration with different chefs that we know from the area, depending on the guest coming. But we really, and then we work a lot with seaweed. Work with a couple of young couple that are marine biologists, and he's also a chef. And they collect a lot of seafood, and they taught us, the edible ones and how we should prepare it. And they say when they are snorkeling around our island that it's really fresh out there. If you collect them further inland, you need to select the good ones. But here, all of them are good. So we really try to, evoke the feeling that I talked about before. This lighthouse masters that against all odds made a good living out there.
You're making me really hungry. I love seafood, and it's just about lunchtime here where I am. So really,
I'm past lunch here on my side of the Atlantic Ocean, so yeah, I'm good.
You mentioned, people get to climb the lighthouse, obviously. They get to fish, obviously. They get to swim if they want to. Any other activities people can partake in when they're there?
Yeah, we wouldn't want to call it a spa, but we have these two big bathtubs that we pump salt water from the ocean up in, and we heat it. I guess it's maybe like that in the northern part of the US also, the coastal communities, that during the winter, there are 9 months that you kind of long to the summer, where you can swim in the sea, and the rest of those 9 months you just freeze. So it's a fantastic thing to jump in a heated saltwater tub when you are just next to the water. So that's really popular. And we had a gunpowder building there where we serve snacks and beers, and they swim there. And that's the courageous one, they jump in the sea also when it's winter. And then we have our masseurs and our seaweed collectors. They also create some fantastic creams and massage oils from the seaweed that has fantastic properties. So also that's local. But so that's something that almost all the guests are doing, this little swimming routine. And then we have like a morning dip in the morning, that we down in the harbor. And depends a little bit on the weather conditions. As you know, it can be really windy, and then you have to pick the right side of the island. And it's actually the tides are filling up the Baltic Sea and emptying the Baltic Sea. So that current is just, so the current can be like 3 knots. I have been there when it's no wind at all. The wind measure device is just standing still. But then it feels like you're next to a river because you hear the water.
If I was there, I think I'd either be at the top of the lighthouse or I'd be eating seafood. Those would be my two big activities. What do you think are some of the reasons people go to stay there?
I think the main emotional reason is it's somehow represent away from it all. It's really beautiful. One thing that I learned from designing hotels that is really beneficial to have one picture, one image that is kind of capturing the whole bigger idea. And in this case, it's really strong. You have it. You have there is a few images taken from a helicopter during a storm. And there are other images that I've taken with my drone, and where you see this tiny speckle island in the big ocean, and you only see the horizon. And that's really appealing. It's one to almost jump into the image. So there is a drama, if you arrive at the airport and you take a taxi or be picked up by a car and you drive through Gothenburg and then up north and then towards the coast, and then you pass one bridge, another bridge, and the islands become smaller and smaller, and then at the end you arrive to Marstrand, which is a really beautiful historical with white wooden buildings and with small restaurants, and then you jump into the boat and then you exit their harbor, and when you get around the corner there, you see this tiny little lighthouse sticking up, and then it becomes larger and larger, and you also passed very often rough water, so it's bumpy, and you're happy that you have your survival suit on. So it's like and then you arrive to this safe little place, and I feel that it's like amplifier of your senses. So we are also experimenting with a lot of culture. I thought from the beginning, if you have an art exhibition there, it will be perceived as something different than doing the same exhibition in a gallery downtown. And that's something you realize when you put your foot on it for the first time. I think that's the reason. It's like traveling a very long way, but it's actually, it's not so far for the Swedes, of course, but mentally you're really entering a different world.
If someone isn't staying at the hotel on the island, is it possible for them to arrange a tour of the lighthouse and other buildings?
We have day trips. We have, even during the summer, we have a summer cafe, so we are open for lunch. And a lot of people come with their own boat, but we can arrange a trip out for people to have lunch, have a beer maybe, and go up in the lighthouse and get a tour of the whole thing, and then they go back after lunch. We have a lot of that. And when it's nice weather, we have always, a musician playing accordion, or, some entertainment out there. And also if there are enthusiasts of lighthouses, we had a few cases of that. There was somebody from Great Britain that wanted to come. They haven't managed yet because of due to the virus, but when they can travel, they will come, and then we arrange a special arrangement for them, to maybe focus more on the history of the lighthouse and see all the details. And definitely, yeah.
As I told you, this podcast is for the US Lighthouse Society, and the society does tours all over the world. And wow. I hope maybe a tour can visit you sometime. I don't know.
We would love to have you. You're all welcome. We'd love to show it to you. And
great.
I became, because of this project, a big lighthouse fan. So I'm watching other lighthouses in totally different eyes now after we joined into this project. So I feel that all the lighthouse enthusiasts around the world are our countrymen somehow. Our kind.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
So if you ever come to New England, let me know, and I'll help you get to some lighthouses here.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Love to do that. So how did your partnership with the film festival come about?
I think it's born, for once I used to be a board member of the Gothenburg Film Festival some years ago, so I know them very well, and I like films, and I like that organization a lot. Then we noticed from the beginning in this project, as I said previously, that this island feels like an amplifier of your senses. So it's really interesting to kind of connect it to culture. So when they asked us if the idea, I think from their part came from that they had to do a digital festival. They tried for a long time to make it a real festival, but then they realized that it was impossible. But then they asked us if we were interested to make a film festival for one, and having one real ticket for a real person to spend 7 days on our island alone, without computer and without Wi-Fi and without telephone, only watching all the films in the film festival. Mm-hmm. We thought it was a fantastic idea, and it kind of corresponded with our idea of using this island as an amplifier of culture. And we also saw the potential that it will point people's eyes towards this beautiful island.
My eyes there.
Yeah, that's the reason why we're here talking, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I saw first, and then I saw articles about the connection to the film festival, but then I found many other articles about the.
Yeah, there are a lot of other articles that was written before, but that was insane actually when Lisa was chosen. It was 12,000 applicants from 45 or more countries. She was a COVID nurse from a small town in Sweden, and her letter, she started with, "I'm really tired because I've been comforting dying people for half a year," she said, and my only way to kind of forget everything is to jump into a movie and watch a movie in my couch at home. So
yeah,
I think she was the right pick. She needed to be able to do willing to do a vlog video diary from the island every day in English, because it's an international film festival. But she was perfect in that sense. And I was helping out when we took her to the island, together with the world press, and it was really the world press, all the CNN and BBC and New York Times, and the big ones were there, and interviewing her and following us out to the island, and even leaving her there. She wasn't actually totally alone. She was there because we didn't dare to do it because of safety. So we said our managing director Mirja, she have to be there together because she knows all the systems in case something happens. But apparently they didn't talk for 7 days. They wrote some post-it notes on the coffee grinder to tell if it's fresh or not. It went fantastic. And we have a lot of requests now for people that wanted to kind of buy a product like that, going there to watch movies, and we have a continuous collaboration with the Gothenburg Film Festival, and we will have. There's a famous director, Ruben Östlund, and he has been nominated for Oscar sometimes, and his new film is coming now, and he will have a preview on the island and then have dinner with all the guests, which I think can be fantastic.
My other big interest besides lighthouses is movies. So if there's another contest like that, I'm entering for sure.
So you saw the Lighthouse then? That's the black and white movie.
Oh yeah. I did a podcast episode all about it, as a matter of fact.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I went to see it with my two co-hosts, Cindy and Michelle. And
excellent.
Sometime maybe we can talk about that. I don't want to get into it now, but there's a lot of opinions about that movie. I have one final question for you for bonus points. Okay, so get ready. What has been your favorite thing about your involvement with Paternoster, the lighthouse, the hotel, and all that?
That's easy. It's spending more time on the sea and spending more time on the island. And even my wife and I, we have 3 daughters, and I have a son from a previous marriage. He lives in the United States, by the way. All our daughters were working there last summer. It was much more to do than we thought. And they liked it so much, so they applied for a job this summer too, so they will be there. So it's almost like a family affair.
Yeah.
Which also made it, because the twins are 17 and then their big sister is 21. In that age, they normally flee, so you don't see them. But on the island, I'm forced to spend time with them, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of nice guests coming there also. So we had great conversations in the evening, and a very odd mix of people, sitting there having dinner together and eating the catch of the day that you caught yourself, and you know the feeling.
Yeah, I do, and I just love all this so much. And like I say, I think it just moved to the top on my bucket list.
Yeah, you're welcome. We should do a podcast from the top of the lighthouse.
Yes, I like that idea a lot. Let's do that sometime. It's a deal.
We also want, there is certain different competitions of design and hotel design, and there's one, the oldest and the most prestigious one in the US. It's called the Gold Key Awards.
And you won that.
Yeah, we tried for many years with fantastic big hotels that we've done around the world, but we never won it. But now they said that this project is so special, so we have to. They even invented a category to fit it in.
Well, it is special. It's just phenomenal what you've accomplished there, and I congratulate you on that. And I look forward to your book. I dream of getting there, like I said. But Erik Nissen Johansen, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Thank you. Everything about it is so interesting. So again, thank you so much, Erik.
Let's do a follow-up when you come to the island and on the podcast.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you.
We love to have some American lighthouse enthusiasts as our guests. So you're always welcome.
The website for the Pater Noster Lighthouse Hotel, also known as Paternoster, a home on the horizon, is paternoster.se. If you want to go straight to the English language version, it's paternoster.se/en. That's PATERNOSTER.se/en. And we just found out about another interesting story related to Pater Noster. The 2021 Oscars are being handed out on April 25th. All 24 of the Oscar nominees in the directing and acting categories receive a gift bag, and this year's include a stay at the Pater Noster Lighthouse Hotel.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if Glenn Close, Anthony Hopkins, Viola Davis, Gary Oldman, or any of the other nominees are brave enough to book a stay at that remote
to take advantage of that gift.
It is beautiful, but it is also remote, which is part of why it's beautiful, I think.
Right.
Thanks as always to everyone connected to the U.S. Lighthouse Society. Visit uslhs.org to learn more about all the things the Society has to offer. And remember that all donations support this podcast and all the education and preservation activities of the Society. Part 2 of our 2-part look at Pater Noster Lighthouse in Sweden will be posted this Wednesday, April 28th. For now, as always, thanks for listening, and to all our Swedish friends,
Håll ett bra ljus. That's keep a good light.
I'm gonna let it shine everywhere I go. I'm gonna let it shine everywhere I go. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.